What's up, everybody out there? Welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to make this video right quick and send out my prayers and wishes and thoughts to the Deano family. For those of you who do not know, which I'm pretty sure most of you have already heard, but yesterday the metal world lost another legend. We lost former lead singer and solo artist Paul Di'Anno, formerly of Iron Maiden. Paul Di'Anno was the lead singer off of actually their demo called the Soundhouse tapes, and their first two albums, which was the first album was titled Iron Maiden, and the second album was called Killers. Those first two albums had a punk sound to them, and Paul Di'Anno just fit those albums great. I mean, those two first albums were groundbreaking albums for Maiden and actually set Maiden on a course which they would be on today. If it wouldn't have been for Paul Di'Anno, I don't know that Maiden would have been where they are today. And this is taking no swipe at Blaze Bayley or nothing. I wasn't a big fan of the two albums that he done. So, and I don't know that I can't blame that totally on him. I think a lot of it had to do with Maiden too. I just don't think the songs were great. There was just something about those two albums that just they didn't seem Iron Maiden to me. And so, you know, but I think for a lot of people, there's only ever been two eras of Iron Maiden, and that was Paul Di'Anno and Bruce Dickinson. And but those first two albums had legendary songs like "Murders in the Rue Morgue," "Wrathchild," "Killers." The first album had Iron Maiden, "Prowler," "Running Free." I think the American release had "Sanctuary" on it. Phantom of the Opera, "Strange World," "Remember Tomorrow." I mean, there was just some classic songs off those first two albums, and just an unforgettable, era in Iron Maiden. When he left Maiden, he went on to form and have a solo career and put out some albums and everything. And I don't know that his solo career ever really got to the status that that I think some people deserved it should have been. And I mean, he had some great songs out there. Don't get me wrong, but I think Paul Di'Anno's legacy will always be his two Maiden albums that he done. Those, like I said, those first two albums were groundbreaking. I mean, those were the two albums that when you hear people talk about the new wave of British heavy metal, those are the two albums you think about. Those first two Maiden records. I mean, those were the two albums that influenced a lot of today's thrash metal bands. I mean, even the Big Four and Testament and some of those other guys out here that you can't. I mean, those guys were influenced by those albums and by that genre of music. And Maiden I think Maiden and Motorhead kind of spearheaded that. And like I said, Paul Di'Anno can have a credit to know that hey, he helped spawn a whole new genre of metal. I think thrash with, like I said, the Big Four and some of these other bands, and just the influential presence that album had for a lot of bands. And those two albums will go down as probably some people's favorite Maiden albums of all time. And I know that those are probably two of my favorites too. I will say this, and I don't want to take up too much people's time, but I remember when I first got into Maiden, probably like a lot of people, I got into Maiden during the Bruce Dickinson era of the band. And I remember owning, I think it was No Prayer for the Dying on cassette. And then I wound up buying, I think, a couple other CDs, maybe. And then I remember one time going to a local record store, and they had the first album, the first Iron Maiden album on CD, and I bought it. And at the time, being naive that I was about Maiden and metal at the time, I didn't realize that they had a different lead singer for the first two albums. So I took it home and listened to it. And at first I was kind of like, what is this? Who is this? You know. But then as I got to, looking at it and all that stuff, and at first, I have to admit, at first I wasn't really crazy about that album. But the more I listened to it, man, the more it just it became one of the albums I listened to probably, out of my Maiden collection. I would have to say that one, those first two records, I probably listened to a lot. And that's not taken away from Bruce Dickinson, because I love Bruce Dickinson. Because I mean, I could probably list my top five Bruce Dickinson albums with Maiden, like right now, and name them all fairly easy. But I would have to say that, if I had to pick five albums, in a catalog for Maiden, and I think most people would say that those first two records are in their top five. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I just want to say to the Paul Di'Anno family, all his friends, bandmates, people who knew him, people who were close to him, everything, my sincere condolences, and may he rest in peace. And you will be sorely missed, man. Your music and the influence you had in the metal world will never be forgotten, and your legacy will always be stamped in the music you made, and especially in those first two Maiden records. So rest in peace, brother. Take care, and we'll see you.